Hi, everybody. This is Elisheva Presser. Okay, so since we just did chapter 9 of Kashrut in the Kitchen, we're going to do chapter 4 of Halachos of childbirth, of pregnancy and childbirth. So here we go. Preparing for a Shabbos birth. When a woman reaches the 9th month of her pregnancy, she and her husband should prepare for the possibility of going to the hospital on Shabbos or Yontif. 1. Preparing for the possibility of labor beginning on Shabbos or Yom Tov will minimize the need to violate Shabbos or Yom Tov. And 8. A woman should register in the hospital or prepare her pre-admission forms prior to Shabbos or Yom Tov. If a woman has not pre-registered in the hospital, she should try to avoid signing the required documents until after Shabbos or Yom Tov. It is usually acceptable to the hospital to witness consent and have the forms signed the next day. If a woman must sign, it is better that she use her left hand. Her husband may not sign or write anything until after Shabbos or Yom Tov unless the hospital refuses to treat her without his signature. If the person in charge of admissions or the woman's attending nurse is not Jewish, both the wife and husband may answer all pertinent questions, but may not fill out any forms. If they are Jewish, one should try to postpone answering all questions which necessitate written responses on the part of the hospital staff until after Shabbos or Yom Tov. If this is not possible, the woman should answer all the questions. In the United States, it is common for administrative consent to be accepted. Administrative consent means that the administrator on duty signs to approve the verbal agreement by the patient. B. A woman should either pay for the taxi in advance, arrange to pay for the taxi after Shabbos or Yom Tov, or prepare in the home an envelope with money to pay for the taxi. A tip may be included. It is preferable to use a larger bill instead of two smaller bills. Example, if the fare will be $5, one should prepare a $5 bill rather than 5 singles. Change should not be accepted from the taxi driver. If no other arrangement was made and the driver will be paid on Shabbos, if a suitcase is being prepared, the money for the taxi should be placed in it before Shabbos or Yom Tov, and the driver may be told to remove the money from the suitcase. If no suitcase will be used, an envelope containing the money should be prepared before Shabbos or Yom Tov. One may tell or hint to the non-Jewish driver to come into the house and take the envelope. If the non-Jewish driver will not come into the house, the envelope may be picked up in an unusual manner, placed into one's hat, shoe, etc., and carried to the car. One may pay the driver in the car, but no change may be accepted. C. If the husband plans to drive his wife to the hospital, he should prepare his car for possible use before Shabbos or Yom Tov. He should remove all items from the car unless they are necessary for driving or safety. He should remove the dome light and all other interior bulbs except the dashboard bulb. He should place driver's license, insurance card, and registration in the car. If he will be using toll roads, he should prepare exact change or tokens before Shabbos or Yom Tov and leave them in the car. D. One should leave on a light in one's home for the entire Shabbos or Yom Tov in case it will be needed. E. Hot water should be prepared before Shabbos in case the delivery will take place at home. F. Some poskim are of the opinion that a woman nearing her due date should stay near the hospital to avoid traveling on Shabbos or Yom Tov. However, if this will cause hardship, she is not required to do so. If contractions begin prior to Shabbos or Yom Tov and the doctor is of the opinion that they signify the onset of active labor, she is required to go to the hospital prior to Shabbos or Yom Tov. On Shabbos, in areas where an Erev exists, a suitcase may be taken to the hospital and one may include in it all items that might be necessary for the hospital stay. On Yom Tov, it is always permissible to take along a suitcase, even beyond the city limits. In areas where no Erev exists, there is a dispute among poskim whether a suitcase may be taken on Shabbos. Most poskim are of the opinion that if the hospital will supply the woman with all necessary items, she should not take a suitcase. Some poskim are of the opinion that a suitcase with all the necessary items may be taken, but only by a non-Jew. Other poskim permit a prepared suitcase to be taken by a non-Jew, even though it contains non-essentials, since the woman in labor may worry that something important was left behind. The non-Jew should be instructed to take the suitcase from the house to the taxi and from the taxi into the hospital. In a situation where a suitcase will be taken, one may put into it a tallis, siddur, and food. If a woman took a Lamez course, she may take along the items necessary for natural childbirth. These items need not be carried by a non-Jew. 3. If the husband plans to use his own car to take his wife to the hospital, the suitcase should be placed in the car before Shabbos unless there is an Erev. 4. Many poskim are of the opinion that it is preferable to take an ambulance or a non-Jewish taxi or car service to the hospital than for a Jew to drive his own car. 5. When entering and exiting the vehicle, it is preferable that a non-Jew open and close the doors, since there is a strong possibility that the lights will go on and off. 6. A woman in labor may have someone accompany her to the hospital in the taxi, ambulance, etc., even if she does not request it. It is permitted whether the vehicle is driven by a non-Jew or a Jew. However, if there is no room for them in the vehicle, they cannot drive their own car, but they may ask a non-Jew to drive them if they are needed. If a woman feels that she needs the presence of her Lamaz instructor, and the instructor is within the boundary limit of permitted travel on Shabbos, she may have the instructor called to come. If the Lamaz instructor is not Jewish, one may call her to come from beyond the Tichum. If the instructor is Jewish, one should call her to come from beyond the Tichum only under exceptional circumstances of panic or major complications. Under such circumstances, the instructor may even travel by car to attend the woman in labor. 7. It is preferable that a woman in her 9th month of pregnancy arrange for someone to stay with her children in case she will have to go to the hospital on Shabbos or Yom Tov. However, if she cannot leave them with a neighbor and no other arrangements are possible, it is permissible to take them by car and leave them by a friend or relative. This is permitted even if the home of the friend or relative is not on the direct route to the hospital. If the friend or relative does not hear the knocking or reside in an apartment complex, the bell may be pressed, preferably in an unusual manner. 8. If a woman arrived at the hospital on Shabbos or Yom Tov and was informed that she is in false labor, A. She may not return home on Shabbos or Yom Tov in a car driven by a Jew. B. Preferably, she should stay in the hospital until after Shabbos or Yom Tov, or she may walk home if the hospital is within the city boundary or separated by less than 2,000 amos from the built-up area of the city. C. If a woman feels unwell and she cannot stay in the hospital until after Shabbos or Yom Tov and cannot walk home, she may be driven home by a non-Jew. Some poskim permit her husband to go home with her. 9. Due to the many problems that arise if one drives their own vehicle, it is preferable for one to use a car service driven by a non-Jew. 10. If a Jew drives his own car, some poskim say that one may drive in the normal manner. Others say that one should avoid unnecessary acceleration, since the use of a motor vehicle is prohibited on Shabbos or Yom Tov unless it is necessary to save a life. Unnecessary use of the dome lights or interior lights is not sanctioned. These lights are not necessary for safe transportation and should not be turned on or off on Shabbos or Yom Tov if it can be avoided. If a person anticipates the need to use a car on Shabbos or Yom Tov, he should remove the dome light and all the other interior bulbs before Shabbos or Yom Tov. The following are some possible problems arising from driving a car, even for pikach nefesh. 11. When one drives to the hospital, one should use the shortest possible route in order to minimize the transgressions of Shabbos or Yom Tov. However, One may transport a woman to a more distant hospital if it is superior, even though a hospital with adequate facilities may be closer. The hospital where a woman is registered is considered superior. The hospital in which one's doctor is affiliated is also considered superior. Financial reasons should not be a factor in determining to which hospital to drive on Shabbos or Yontif. 12. The driver should put the driver's license, insurance card, and registration inside the car before Shabbos or Yontif. If this was not done, the driver may take driver's license, insurance card, and registration into the car, even if there is no Erev, but should carry them in an unusual manner, such as in their hat or shoes. These papers should be left in the car upon reaching the hospital. 13. The car should be started in an unusual manner, such as holding the key in an awkward manner. 14. If one lives in an area where hand signals are used, when possible, hand signals should be used to avoid the use of the signal lights. 15. If the inside light bulbs were not removed before Shabbos or Yontif, the inside switch that governs the interior light should be turned to the on position in an indirect or unusual manner before the door is closed to prevent the lights from going off with the closing of the door. If this is not possible, the bulbs should be removed in an indirect or unusual manner. 16. When the use of headlights is necessary, the low beams should be used whenever possible. Upon reaching the hospital, the headlights and panel lights should not be turned off. 17. The brakes should only be applied to avoid danger, since pressure on the brake pedal automatically causes the brake lights to be illuminated. 18. When it is necessary to bring the car to a stop, if possible, the driver should remove their foot from the accelerator and permit the car to coast to a stop. This procedure is to prevent unnecessary activation of the brake lights. If the driver must brake and does not want to jolt the ill person by doing so, they should brake in the normal manner. Upon reaching the hospital, the motor may not be turned off by the Jewish driver. One should hint to a non-Jewish security guard or other hospital personnel that a Jew may not turn off the engine on Shabbos or Yontif. If the non-Jew fails to take the hint, they may be asked directly. If the car is situated, the continued running of the engine constitutes danger to human lives, it is permitted to turn off the engine, preferably through a minor or in an indirect and unusual manner. 20. Upon arrival at the hospital, one should not stop the car in front of the hospital entrance, for once the car has been stopped, it may not be driven again unless someone's life is in danger. Avoiding a parking ticket is not a sufficient reason to move the car. If one did park by the entrance, a non-Jew may move the car. If the car is parked in an area where carrying on Shabbos is forbidden, the keys should not be removed from the car. If children may find the keys and possibly hurt themselves, one may remove the keys from the car, preferably in an indirect or unusual manner. If the key fits only the ignition switch, it is muksa and should not be handled once the car has stopped. However, if the key is also used to unlock the doors, it is not considered muksa. 22. If possible, the driver should remove from the car all unnecessary items before Shabbos or Yontif. For example, one should remove the contents of the glove compartment and trunk. One does not have to remove the spare tire since it might be needed. If one will be using a toll road, exact change or token should be prepared in the car before Shabbos or Yontif. It is preferable to have the toll collector remove the money from the driver's hand. 23. It should be understood that the car should be prepared for possible use on Shabbos or Yontif. However, if one feels that they will be delayed in reaching the hospital by these procedures, they should drive the car in a normal manner, for driving a woman in labor to the hospital is considered a matter of life and death. If the driver is not well versed in these halachos, they will perform unnecessary violations of Shabbos or Yontif. For this reason, poskim recommend using a taxi driven by a non-Jew instead of one's own car. If the hospital has electric doors, these doors should be avoided and manual doors should be used. If this causes a pregnant woman undue hardship, she may enter through the electric doors, preferably behind or with a non-Jew who will activate the electric doors. The person accompanying her should use the manual doors unless the woman requests their assistance. If manual doors are not available, they may enter with her or request a non-Jew to open the electric doors. 25. A woman in labor may use an elevator on Shabbos or Yontif. The button should be pressed by a non-Jew or in an indirect or unusual manner. The person accompanying her should preferably use the stairs. If this is not possible, or if she requests or requires their presence, they may go into the elevator with her. A woman in labor may also use an escalator if it is running constantly. If it is activated only when someone steps on it, it is preferable for a non-Jew to activate the escalator. 26. One should avoid being discharged from the hospital shortly before Shabbos or Yontif. If this is impossible, a Rav should be consulted as to procedure to follow. Okay, everybody, that's chapter 4 of Halachos of pregnancy and childbirth. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. We'll do another chapter of the